Thank you so much. We're about, to conclude the conference, but throughout the day, we dealt in different topics that are related to service, IDF service. And thank you so much again, Lieutenant General, the former Chief of Staff, Gadi Eisenkot, and Tamir Hyman is here as well. Gal fell in Jabalia in December of 2023, the first candle of Hanukkah, when he was again on a mission to rescue hostages. Yesterday, unfortunately, 3 soldiers fell in Jabalia in that same place, and the current chief of staff and former one, he basically said the time has come now to make a deal for the return of the hostages. Why is it not happening? Has the time come to end the war? Very painful event. Yes, 22 months after the war broke out, 3 soldiers fell in the same Jabalia. And on the 7th of October, the missions, again, the goals were set. On the 25th of October, there was an IDF plan for the Gaza Strip vis-a-vis those goals of the war. And the plans basically said that within a year, the Hamas will be dismantled. We'll have complete operational, again, dominance and control in Gaza. And that there was somewhat of a civil solution for Gaza. Of course, the time elapsed, things went haywire, it happens during war, and the question is why? Because, of course, the IDF it works with targets. Of course, we wanted to dismantle, again, the Hamas of its capabilities and to bring back the hostages. Herzi Halevi said it back in May of 2024, and he said that, again, the time has come, the conditions are ripe to bring back hostages. Now, the question is, why has this not happened? Because, of course, we know we all want to defeat Hamas. We want to get rid of this threat. We want to create a better security situation over time. And unfortunately, I saw this from up close. And that is why we left the cabinet back then. Because there were always political calculations that came into play when decisions were taken. And now as well, we need an overall, again, deal, again, within 60 days. You don't need all those 60 days. And to, again, work according to those 4 principles. Now, why does it not happen? I think it's political considerations. Now, our soldiers have to know that they are fighting to promote those goals that were set. And soldiers work by the orders of the command, the senior command. I think the conditions were met. I think we have to materialize and exercise those again, the things that we did achieve. Let me just, people talk about that these 2 goals are contradict each other because the hostages are held as hostage because they're holding on to them because they know that otherwise, if they give them all, they will be demolished. How do we achieve both of these goals? Now, if we have some sort of agreement with Hamas, we basically agreed that Hamas will not be dismantled, will not be destroyed. How do you appease these 2 contradictory sort of goals? But again, we didn't say that we will completely destroy or be victorious over Hamas. We understood it will take a lot of time. We have a lot of experience from Judea and Samaria during the first Intifada as well. It takes time. That is why we defined a goal of destroying the capabilities of Hamas. And there are also, again, certain definitions of that in terms of quantity. Once that is achieved, we move over to getting those hostages out by understanding that we'll continue fighting vis-a-vis terror, we'll continue fighting the terrorists for many years to come. But again, I think the vision of Hamas is to destroy the state of Israel and to build an Islamic state between the Jordan and the sea. What they demanded and what Netanyahu ratified was having a permanent ceasefire, which is something that we, should have been done in Lebanon, and it happened. And with Iran, and it happened, and it's the right thing to do when it comes to Gaza as a condition to move forward. Now, my understanding of this, that in the visible future, we'll continue to fight against terrorism and the Hamas organization. Now, the central problem emanates from the fact that there is no vision or long-term solution for Gaza, again, from which one derives this operation. The best solution, I think, again, this was put on the table 2 months after the war broke out. I also put down a position paper. The Gallant put down this recommendation. We said the solution has to be a combined solution. We would have security responsibility, and the civil control will be done by locals in Gaza with the assistance of the Sunni moderate states and the United States. Now, instead of promoting this plan, we sort of use all these gimmicks, all these bubble plans that brought about nothing, and the Hamula plan of all these different militants that have taken control of territories, the humanitarian plans, and all sorts of things like that. Now, you have to take a very brave decision, which stems from understanding the true conditions and not the underlying motives of Ben-Gvir and Smotrich, who want military control over Gaza and then resettling Gaza, a Jewish settlement there. Now, they, brought on a new reality instead of, again, materializing the achievements of the IDF. I think we have to draw up a more practical reality, and we have to, solving the short-term problems, but also looking into the long-term. I think with the right plan, we'll be able to demilitarize the area, de-radicalize the Gaza Strip, dismantle them of their weapons, and this will only be done through a sustainable long-term plan, not through various gimmicks and militants taking control of different areas and through political considerations. Just maybe a reminder of the past. I think we all remember what you said in the previous, the Knesset before the war broke out. And you said that the threats, the military threats that we have to deal with are very severe and are not unrelated to the social issues. That was, again, social problems that we had. Let me give you, again, figures from a survey. 62% of the Jewish population said that they think that the current policy around the recruitment of ultra-Orthodox will undermine the security of the State of Israel. Is this an exaggeration? Or are we at a cross point, at an intersection where we're really not drafting the ultra-Orthodox really does pose a threat, a security threat? Now, there are two questions here. How did we get to the 7th of October? That military that really operated in a wondrous fashion and really had great achievements in Lebanon. That's the very same military, that same, Air Force of the 7th of October. And there was an interview in English yesterday of the Prime Minister. He said it was not updated. He was not represented with the facts. Assembly was part of the Defense and Security Committee. Let me say that the Intelligence Corps came out again with warnings, strategic warnings. There was an understanding that the deterrence of Israel was undermined. You remember the detention in Har Dov. There was a terrorist attack in Megiddo. There was an attempt to assassinate a former military figure at the Eilon Park. And on the August 16, 2023, which is 6 weeks before the war broke out, I sent a personal letter to the Prime Minister and also to some chairs of committees, and I warned him. So the problem didn't start on October 7th, but through that blindness that brought about a terrible calamity, and again on how the solidarity was undermined. The fact that our deterrence, just broke down in a few minutes and there was no defense, and 3,000 terrorists were able to invade the communities of the Gaza envelope. So the first thing is solidarity, Israeli solidarity. And again, reservists and alert teams, again, people from those alert teams who sat here before. I hope there will be a committee that will check this out, and on the 15th of the 2nd, again, when I was Chief of Staff in 2015, I'm willing to again play a part in the examination, in the investigation. Now, when the IDF, remember, we talked about it being the army of the people. I thought innocently that October 7th, it was some sort of a watershed moment. And I was sure that everybody would understand that everybody has to do their compulsory service because we're in under very special circumstances. And I suddenly understood again, we're not going to talk about a drafting law. Again, we're also talking about the future of the state of Israel. It cannot be that, again, facing this alliance of the reservists, there's suddenly a different alliance of those who are evading service, dodging service. How could this be? Because this drafting law is supposed to formalize the military service of every young man and woman. I'm talking about the ultra-Orthodox, I'm talking about the Arab sector. They can also do a broader national service and can contribute in their own way.
The data I did mention are very concerning. The understanding is that if we do not go to a good and true and developing conscription law while giving a lot of respect to the Torah study world, we will find ourselves at a great crisis for Israel, both at mandatory compulsory service as well as in reserves. And we come back to what saved us: the solidarity, the mutual responsibility. The most sad thing is that a third of the coalition in the state of Israel, of the government, sending fighters to fight and decide whether we will bring back hostages or not, do not support a conscription law. This is a paradox. When the chief of staff looks up, its commander is the government. As someone who likes history, is a history buff, someone who's in politics, 60% of the population says if you continue on like this is a risk, a danger for the state of Israel. You look at history, you look at politics, and the growing electoral power of the Haredis. What will promise us that in an alternative future, one where you are leading, you are able to do something different? The problem existed for a long time. How will you be dealing with it? You can't make a decision at once. Of course, it was an accident, a historical accident that happened many years ago, where Menachem Begin was elected prime minister, and he made a coalition agreement together with the Agudat Israel, Avraham Shapira, to have a clause brought in that allows anyone who wants to study Torah. So from 800 Torah students alone, when I was enlisted, we came to 85,000 service people who are supposed to be in service are now studying Torah, and all the others are doing hundreds of days of reserve duties. It's clear that ever since October 7th, our reality has changed. It's not routine, it's emergency routine that is continuous and will require a lot of young people to serve. And with all the thoughts that we live in a different reality went away on October 7th, it's very clear that without making the very much needed decision, not a courageous decision, but rather needed, that we will now go to a very large service, encompassing service for every young man or woman, according to following a certain number of Torah students that is already defined. We will find ourselves in a very deep crisis regarding the solidarity in the Israeli society, and it will only remain as something that is said on the lips but not performed. If we don't have a good conscription law, I see a risk for the future of the state of Israel. And let me just be more precise maybe about this danger. And I'm interested in hearing from you as a former chief of staff. Another datum that was very concerning from the survey is that a third of the Jewish population thinks that if a conscription law passes, that means that most of the Haredi society is exempted. We should also completely cancel the mandatory service in Israel. And my question to you is, if we're talking about military need that is at the basis of this law, how is the question how many already enlist, or it's a whole question of a conception of a right and equal and fair law and of sharing the burden is something that needs to go under the title of military requirement. I think that IDF is the military of the people. Its objective is very clear. Its purpose is very clear. It needs to win battles and protect the state of Israel. This is what the IDF is meant for. So we need to enlist the young people, males and females, and there's great importance to where we are standing now to have a people of a military of the people, not a military of mercenaries, with the understanding that I went along with, which is why I agreed to shorten by 4 months, because I understood demographically what defines the military within a decade, that is. And I asked to see compensation, which is 3,000 short-term enlistments in order to fill this gap, and then create a situation where the IDF is not only the people's army, but also a more diversified military of the people, which is why the second part of having it mandatory is that you are rewarded. The civil society must see those in service as the greatest beneficiaries of the Israeli society, which needs to be expressed in recognition and in rewards for them. We started a plan, a minimalistic plan for the first 12 who started on a program from fatigues to a student in order to be recognized, and almost 80,000 soldiers have already passed through this track, and I hope that we will soon see everyone who served. Those who are combat fighters will see 80% of their tuition paid, but they need to be recognized not only with materialistic rewards, but the most concerning thing is that when people discuss the conscription law, when you discuss it with the Haredis, it all has to do with financial aspects. It's about kindergartens, it's about budgets, it should be something that we discussed concerning values. Everyone who's a part of this state needs to promise the future of the state and defend it, which is why, to me, we go back to talk about values and the way the Israeli society would look like. I have a granddaughter who's 8 years old, and I ask myself, how will the state look like when she's 30 years old, when the state is 100 years old? What kind of state we want to have? A Jewish democratic society that is powerful and advanced and liberal? Someone needs to make sure it is defended and protected, which is why everything has to do with everything. It's not just a conscription law. It's part of a whole question of the education in Israel. And if you don't understand the connection between education and service, I think you are missing the point. When you're looking where we have soldiers who enlist to the IDF, most of them come from education of the state or Orthodox state, and 86% that is. You grow up on the ethos of your commitment to the state. You grow up on a mutual responsibility to your friends. And if we don't take care of education and the responsibility for the state, then we should be concerned about our future together. Gadi Eisenkot, the former chief of staff, thank you very much. We could have been sitting here for a long time, but the earpiece is telling me it's time to end this discussion. Thank you very much, Gadi Eisenkot and Tamir.